Welcome inside the CitrusTV studios for a special Webisode edition of Talking Points. I'm Brandon Ross. The United Nations issued a report last Monday that painted a stark picture for the future of the environment. That report stated that global temperature levels could reach a dangerous threshold as early as 2030. Here to discuss further details of the report and some potential solutions are Talking Points analysts Tyler, Lowell, and Katherine Buddenhagen. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. So first question is just basically detail some of the report. What are some other things besides that 2030 statistic that I just threw out that this report entailed?
Sure. I think the main takeaway for me was that we have about 10 to 14 years left of the current emissions levels before things are in the red zone and past the point of no return. They're aiming for about a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase over the next, by 2030. But if we do go beyond that, then we're asking for some real problems.
Yeah, I think the really important thing to look at is what this statistic could mean. Deadly hurricanes, intensifying droughts, food shortages, increasing poverty across the globe. So these statistics definitely have some serious implications.
And in this report, did they list any potential solutions? Was this just more informatory, or did they plot out some solutions to the issues?
Well, interestingly, the report didn't specify any specific policy they wanted governments to follow, but it's really impossible to ignore the implications there. One
of the major takeaways for me, I think, was that governments need to subsidize clean energy. So we're spending upwards of $260 billion a year on dirty energy around the world. If a portion of that money were put into things like green, solar, wind, it could really make a big difference.
Are any governments actively taking such steps right now, or do you think some governments will make some steps towards those in the future?
Well, I think it's pretty interesting to note that even pro-Paris deal nations are going forward with some endeavors right now that are pretty against the spirit of that agreement. So Norway with oil exploration in the Arctic and Britain with gas fracking. So it'll be interesting to see if the nations now with this new report decide to follow new rules.
Sure, yeah. I think it's a money-motivated business, right? So at the end of the day, if there's no financial incentive for companies to sort of move in that direction, it's never going to happen. At this point, especially with the United States being the second largest polluter in the world, having pulled out of the Paris Agreement, it's kind of hard to see, who's setting the tone for where this needs to go.
Obviously, the Paris Agreement, not a binding deal.
Sure.
Nations can agree to the terms, but they can go forth as they so wish. And giving some final thoughts here, are there any individual level things that people could do if they want to stem the tide of climate change, or does it really have to be a global effort?
Yeah, well, sure. Personally, I think one of the biggest things that people can do is eat a little bit less red meat. It's upwards of 80% of the farming land that we have across the world right now is dedicated to agriculture and farming. And so, and the reason that's a big problem is because it produces a lot of methane, which has a longer half-life, if you will, than CO2, which means it warms up the world a little faster. So cutting back on meat would be a good place to start.
And we've been hearing this for years. Greening your commute, taking a bike, investing in an electric car, carpooling with coworkers. There's a lot of little things that we can all do to help the environment.
Some great talking points there from you guys. Thank you so much, Katherine and Tyler. That's all the time we have for you on Talking Points. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at CitrusTV News. And for full shows and webisodes and other articles, be sure to visit us at citrustv.com. Have a good day, Syracuse.